Hi there everybody, how are you going? It's been a pretty big week. I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading for the week starting the 14th of December through to the 20th of December 2020. A lot is going on in the stars at the moment, which is really making for some intense energy. We had an eclipse earlier in the month, which was a full moon lunar eclipse, and this Tuesday coming we have a new moon / solar eclipse, and that just makes it more intense. So if you're feeling like the energy is building, this will be why. So Tuesday, it's Tuesday here in Australia. I think in the US it hits sort of overnight Monday. So if you think of that overnight Monday period as being the peak, that's probably going to help a bit. New moons are normally a time of setting goals. So I have chosen a couple of card decks for this week that help us, that really focus on new beginnings and starting in a new direction. But the thing is, because this is in the sign of Sagittarius, you might find that it is pointing towards setting goals in particular areas. So Sagittarius is the sign of travel. Obviously we're not doing a lot of that at the moment, but that can also be travel in a more metaphoric sense in terms of expansion, exploration, adventures closer to home, perhaps in terms of, daring ourselves to try new things, take a few more risks, calculated risks. It's also the sign of learning, of philosophy, religion, I've forgotten, it's on the tip of my tongue, publishing. That's what it is. So all those sorts of things might be things you might want to set goals around depending on where you're at in your life. But one thing about Sagittarius is it is a sign of optimism. So definitely a time to be feeling a lot more hopeful about things. I think we all need that, quite frankly. So I'm shuffling the cards now for Monday. And one thing I'll add is there's next week I'll be talking to you about the conjunction, which is going to be pretty major, and it's going to bring through some big energy too. So 2020 is not going out quietly. Here we go. Monday's card is called the Tribe. I love this African feel it's got going on. It's all about belonging, which is a big theme for so many of us. Many of the people who talk to me, and this is very much reflective of the energy I have, tell me they don't feel like they belong. They feel like an outsider, an outlier. They feel like they're always trying to find their tribe and never quite getting there. And I can totally relate. That's been my experience as well. So this card is doing a couple of things. First of all, it might be signaling that this feeling of belonging might be something you want to work on in terms of, with a healer of some sort or a therapist to really, and to kind of ask yourself some questions about how this might be showing up in your life. It's also reassuring you that you are not alone. You've got so much spiritual support around you, and that there are a lot of people feeling the same way. It's weird that so many of us feel lonely and isolated. It feels like a problem we should be able to fix if we could just come together in some way. But definitely in the spiritual community, I know that's a broad term, but there are definitely pockets within the community that you would be able to connect with if that's something you're looking for. Yeah, it's up to you what you want to do about this. If you want to go out and actively search for your people, definitely go for it. But you may like to just take comfort in the fact that there are people out there who feel exactly the same way as you. And therefore, if nobody feels like they belong, then actually maybe nobody belongs at all. And maybe the ideas that we've told ourselves about fitting in, being cool, are maybe not so important after all. There was something that we had at high school and we maybe need to let go of a bit more. Tuesday is being in the flow. This is one of the card decks I mentioned earlier. It's literally called Gateway Oracle cards, so definitely about stepping over the threshold into a new chapter. And I love the imagery here. It's a boat. Obviously any mode of transport is going to be all about the journey that we're on in our lives, but as a boat, it's on water. Water is all about emotions. This may be about needing to deal with the emotions that come up as we move ahead in our journey of personal development and healing. Being in the flow is an interesting idea, because one of the things that comes up for me, and I suspect for many of you, is this idea of how much is the universe's responsibility and how much is up to me. This is definitely veering towards more of the universe putting it on the universe. And that's not to say surrendering, your own, getting out of the steering, out of the driver's seat completely, but it is about recognizing if you are hitting a lot of hurdles repeatedly, and maybe that you are trying to force something that isn't meant to be, and maybe it will be easier to just surrender and let things happen as they need to, and then you could make a decision about how to move forward with that. So being in flow means when we're in flow, it's usually because we're able to trust that the universe is acting in our best interests. And sometimes the reason we might not be able to do that is because we've been living in fight or flight mode our whole lives. We've been walking on eggshells around people. We've never felt a sense of safety. And maybe that is the thing you need to work on at a deeper level. But if we're able to trust the universe, then it's easier for us to find that point on the spectrum, or the line between this is my responsibility, this is up to the universe. I have control over this, I don't have control over this other thing. So maybe that's what it is you need to be working on right now, figuring out where you fit on that in a particular circumstance, because of course it changes depending on the situation, to figure out how to move forward. Wednesday's card is super relevant. It's about acceptance. If you think about how these two go together, it's quite beautiful, being in the flow and accepting that maybe things aren't going to work out the way you expected, but maybe they will still work out very well, or perhaps better than you had expected, although it may not feel like that at the time. So really coming to a point of what is it I need to make peace with? Is it making peace with the fact that things are different to how I expected? Is it making peace with the fact that I'm not like everybody else, that I haven't lived up to the narrative that I had for how my life was going to look, and maybe that's okay, making peace with that. The caption on this is, I unconditionally accept, cherish and love myself just as I am. Now, many of you know I'm not a massive fan of talking about self-love, but in this context, self-acceptance is absolutely relevant. Just being at peace with ourselves instead of constantly trying to beat ourselves up or force ourselves to look a certain way that we just don't look, or to be a type of person that we're just not. I love this Thursday, joy. Really about, we had a card last Friday, the singing and dancing one, which I talked about how fun and play needed to be prioritized for so many of us. And this is very much in that vein, doing things that bring you joy and giving yourself permission to feel joy. Now, one thing I would say here is that some people are actually afraid of joy, which I know sounds really weird, but if you've had this situation where every time you do something that brings you joy, or on many occasions when you do it, something bad happens, like maybe you love, I don't know, cycling, but you keep having these accidents. Sometimes what can happen is when joy is really scary to our energy, it will do something to stop us, to get us out of that moment, or to stop us from doing it. And that's because joy, although it sounds wonderful, it can be scary because it means that we're surrendering control. If we surrender to joy, then we're not watching what's going to go wrong next. What do I need to be thinking about? Those controlling mechanisms that we think keep us safe need to be abandoned for the time being. And for some of us, particularly people who have deep control issues, that's going to be really provoking. So if that's coming up for you, it might be something you need to work on. A lot of things to think about for the new year. What am I going to need to focus on to really make a significant difference to my well-being and the way I experience the world? And maybe just giving over to joy, bringing in more joy into your life, and addressing what it is that's stopping you from doing that. Is it that you have impossibly high standards? Is it that you feel you have to earn it? Maybe you need to be good enough to feel joy. Friday's card also has a bit of a watery theme. I'm just noticing now that there's water here too, and the dolphins, very spiritual animals, dolphins. Oshana, not sure how to say that. Every time I get one of these cards, I stumble over the pronunciation. Anyway, take action. You're in touch with your truth in this situation, and you need to trust your gut and lovingly assert yourself. So I feel like this is very much reminiscent of the idea of being in flow, just going with it and trusting that it's right. Don't fall into this trap of second guessing yourself. Sometimes we do second guess ourselves because we think, oh, I'm looking out for potential dangers to keep myself safe from them. But actually, if you know this is the right thing to do, then just go with it, continue with it. It's almost like an affirmation that your understanding of the situation is accurate. So I guess like a green light in a way. And sorry, I'm just coming back to this even though I put it down. This marine life is so great. And I love that this diver is down deep. I think it's an angel actually. They're going down deep to work through what it is I've got to work through, but they're just going with it. Okay, a lot of emotions are going to come up, but I'm just going to keep working through them even though it's hard and uncomfortable. Ooh, Saturday's card, solar plexus chakra. So chakras are energy centers located in our energy field. They're what our energy moves through. Well, it moves through a lot of meridians, but they're the main, I guess, roundabouts or the intersections that it will move through. And the main points where there can be blockages that will prevent that energy moving freely, and that has an impact on our well-being, on our emotional health, the way we show up in the world. And the solar plexus one is the energy center, all about power and control. So you can see that power and control are big this week. We had that card around being in flow. It's all about negotiating the balance of power. How much can I control? How much can I not? And so it's this idea of asserting your power. What is in my power? I can respond. I have the power to respond to this situation. I can choose a situation that's out of my power, but I can choose how I respond to it. Or my life has gone in a path I didn't particularly want, but I can take back power by looking at how the ways I inadvertently created or contributed to that dynamic. Sometimes we don't, but in some cases we have, by allowing or accepting bad behavior or ignoring our intuition. And by recognizing how that's happened, we learn the lesson, and then it's easier to make changes. So looking at any situation where power and control are coming up for you, are you giving away? A key way we give away our power is by blaming other people. So if you have a tendency towards a victim mentality, which I know is very prevalent in many families, including my own, that may be the message for you. Stop blaming and start looking at what can I actually do to fix this situation. And sometimes it's much easier, well, many times it's much easier to blame other people rather than take back control, but it's not going to go away. And the thing about blaming and complaining is they feel a little bit satisfying at the end, but ultimately we don't feel that much better afterwards. So it's much better to go through the discomfort of dealing with it, and therefore helping ensure that we can actually make those changes. Sunday's card, you and your loved ones are safe. I've mentioned safety before. Safety is huge. If we don't feel safe and secure in our own skin, in our own homes, in our own lives, and I know there is a degree of privilege that can go along with this, but it does really impact the way we approach decisions, the way we approach our development, whether we feel like development is even in growth, even possible for us. If all our attention is being devoted into keeping ourselves safe by trying to manage someone else's moods so they don't fly off the handle, we're in constant fight or flight, and we're not putting any energy into our own stuff, our own priorities, our own hobbies, our own passion projects, our career development, all those sorts of things. So taking steps to make ourselves safe, if that's possible, is a huge start. And sometimes we just need to recognize that we are safe. Sometimes, if you are actually safe, what is stopping you from feeling that? What's pulling you into a fight or flight stance or an anxious state? If that's out of alignment with the reality of your situation, then perhaps there is some work for you to do there. Maybe you need to work with a therapist or come and see an energy healer such as myself to work through what is going on at a deep level, to communicate to your body, to your mind, we're not safe here, and to actually work through those blocks. Sometimes it's very old stuff that needs to be cleared. So looking at the week, as I mentioned, power and control coming to the fore, and control, I think it has quite negative connotations. It makes us think of manipulation, controlling behavior, but it's not necessarily about the ways we might be trying to control other people. It could be about the ways we're letting someone control us, but also I think it's about the ways we sometimes try to control situations, maybe to make ourselves feel safe, in terms of, I'm trying to think of a good example here. I'm going to keep this person at arm's length so they can't hurt me. So I'll share with them a little bit about my life, but I won't talk to them exactly about the things I need help with, because then I'll be vulnerable, and then that's going to end badly. So that's a very, that's painted with a very broad brush stroke, but hopefully that gives you some sort of illustration of how that could be showing up. So also this idea of acceptance and surrender comes up as well. Being in flow, figuring out where that's appropriate for us. And yeah, I guess safety as well. So it's a pretty big week. I can't say I'm overly surprised about that given what I know is going on in the stars. Lots of things to think about. If you are feeling really emotional, going with the flow, allowing yourself to feel whatever you feel is going to help you, and knowing this will pass. And one of the best ways to move through emotions is to actually allow them instead of being trying to stuff them down, which just doesn't work. It just means you're more likely to explode in anger down the line. So that's it from me for this week. Next week I will talk about the conjunction and other things that are going on, the equinox. I hope this has been helpful for you. This is the 14th to the 20th of December, so we're not quite at the end yet, but it is a good time to start thinking about what it is that needs to be addressed in 2021. So many of you may know that I do have a 1 for $11 service where I can draw you one card and email you the meaning as I see it relating to you, and that only costs 11 Australian dollars, which is about $8 US and £6 if you're in the UK. I can't remember how much euros it is, I'm sorry, but so it's a very good way to get a quick hit of guidance if that's what you're looking for. And of course, if you want something more in depth, you're better to go with a full 1 hour reading, which we do over Zoom, and you can ask your angels up to 3 questions, and I can really go in deep as to how things are connected and how this might be relating to you. And there is energy healing included in that to clear some of the things that have come up in the cards. So that's how I work. I also offer energy healing, where I would go do a deep dive on some of the issues, the blocks, where you're getting stuck. All the information about that work is on my website, www.onegroundedangel.com, onegroundedangel.com. If you're not already following me on Instagram, my Instagram account is @onegroundedangel. I have a Facebook page called One Grounded Angel. That, as I say, everything you need to know is available at my website, including a bookings form. And you can fill out the bookings form if you're not ready to book, but you just want more information. So consider it a contact form, if you will. Thanks, everybody. I was going to say have a good week. Let's just have an accepting week and do the best we can. So I look forward to reading some more cards for you next week and talking some more about what's coming up for that last couple of weeks of the year. Take care.